Okay, the balance. When you're doing the balance and the juggle, gotta break them down in the beginning. It's really two separate tricks. You've got to assume that of the two tricks, the juggle is the easiest one. So obviously your cascade has got to be pretty solid. No, change that. Your cascade pattern has got to be very solid. If you're going to be trying to work with a club up on your face, then the stuff that's going on down here has got to be second nature. So here's how you can test that, and I think this is a great way to warm up and sort of see how it's going. Just do the three. Yeah, right. But in this case, do the three while looking straight up ahead. If you can look straight up at the ceiling and keep the cascade going underneath, that means that you're probably ready. So literally, here's what I'll do. I'll look straight up and then just practice throwing. Okay? You want to make sure that you're still looking overhead though, and not trying to do one of these things. Okay, that's just never going to work. So I would just practice that. Look straight up, and then practice this. Where on your face should you put it? I put it on my chin. I have talked to other jugglers who I really respect, who are just really, really good at this stuff, people that perform a lot. And I will tell you, most of them say that you should put it on your forehead. If you're doing it for an audience, on the chin, it obstructs your face, so nobody can see you. You put it on your forehead, and people can see your face, which is nice for the audience. Okay, now having said that, I prefer to put it on my chin. It's just because I've learned it that way, and it's what's comfortable for me over the years. Either way, wherever you put it, it's going to be the same process. You want to make sure, first of all, when you put the club on your face and let go, this sounds like a small detail, but when you put the club on your face and let it go, you want to make sure that the club is straight up and down. A lot of people start off fighting the balance because they put the club up and it's at an angle. Okay? And then they're going, I'll never get this, I'll never get this. Well, give yourself the benefit of making sure that the club is straight up and down. It's a small thing, but I've seen a lot of beginners will make that essential mistake right there. So make sure the club is straight up and down, then place it on your face and get a feel for that. I mean, just get a feel for what that looks like from that perspective and get a feel of what it's like when it's resting on that part of your body. Here's what I do when I think about trying to balance something. I try to think about keeping the club as still as possible. Okay? So, if you do it on your hand, again, I'm trying to keep the club very, very still so that I don't have to fight with it and try to figure out how to get the balance back. The same thing happens when you put it on your face. It's kind of hard to see the actual top, but if you visualize the top, and I mean kind of looking up along the club and imagining where that spot is, your goal is to keep that spot still. And you want to keep it right above your face where it was when you put it on there perfectly the first time. When you do that, that allows you to have some perspective on how the club is moving. And then it's a matter of trying to figure out. If it starts to move this way, then you want to move the bottom of the club so that you straighten the top back out. If it starts to move this way, then you move the bottom of the club to straighten back out. And of course, if you're moving the club, what that really means is you're moving your face, okay? Which is going to bring up, I guess, the third point, okay? When you move to correct the balance, you want small, small moves. None of this kind of stuff. That's, we're not breakdancing here. You're going for small corrections that will keep it from getting out of control to begin with. And you don't want to overcorrect, which means don't look for it to start falling and wiggling around. Let it do what it does. You try to keep it, still, and you want to go for small variations. See if I can show you that. Okay. If you get to the point where you're actually having to correct by taking steps to the side, you know what? Just stop. I would start over. You don't want to learn how to juggle with the balance because you're moving all over the place. That's just not going to do you any good. Summarize again. Make sure it's straight up and down when it's placed on your face. 2, you're looking at the top, or at the very least, the bulb, the body of the club, trying to keep that straight up and down, trying to keep that still. And then 3, when you make corrections, you want to do just small movements from the waist up, or even just the chin, or even just the neck, okay? No wandering around. If you start to wander around, stop, take the balance off, and just begin again. All right, now, got the balance, okay? Putting it together with the juggle, again, patience, okay? This is the part that's going to seem a little strange for me to try to explain. I mean, really, what you're going to do is just put the club up there. You've already got the balance mastered, and now you're just going to put it together with something that you already know how to do really well, and that's the basic juggle. The key is the following. The trick is really in the balance. So what I mean by that is, as you're trying to balance and do the juggle, you need to let go in your mind of this stuff and focus on this, because you have to assume that this is just automatic. And if it's not, then I would go back and brush up on your 3 clubs. My guess is if you're trying to learn how to do it, yeah, you know how to do 3 clubs pretty well. So really, as you're doing the trick, always remember, the balance is the key. Okay? Now here's how you actually apply that. What I mean by that is this. If I'm juggling, always keep the balance even if you drop. Let me say that again. That's probably even better. You always want to end the juggle and the balance by having control over the balance. If you do that, you will make a tremendous amount of progress. I think I have been struggling with the balance and the juggle for a couple of weeks or so. Somebody told me that one hint, never let the balance go, and suddenly my juggling got a lot better. A lot better. Where do you look? Or how do you split your attention? Well, remember, the juggle is going to be done in the periphery of your vision. Alright? So right now, I'm looking at the club roughly in the red section. And really, as I start to do the juggle, I'm going to be looking at it more where the handle comes together. And the reason is because as I'm doing this part, as I'm doing that part, I'm actually trying to use the, I guess, bottom periphery of my vision to at least spot check where these are. I shouldn't have to focus on this too much because I know how to juggle 3 clubs. But I do have to keep in mind that I'm doing the balance. So what I've found is looking right about here on this club allows me to also visualize that. Work on first. Make sure the cascade is solid. Okay? Look straight up. Practice just throwing the 3. Then, separately, work on the balance. Pick the spot of your body, spot of your head that looks best. Okay, work on that. Remember, you're looking at keeping the club perpendicular on your face when you let it go. Secondly, you're working on making sure that the top of the club stays in one place, so you need to kind of visualize that or look at the bulb of the club. Make sure that stays. And third, when you correct it, correct with just small motions. Correct before it starts to lean too much and then you're actually literally running around. You don't want to do that. Okay, then, the big thing, putting them together. And you remember this, the balance is the trick. The juggling is not. The juggling, second nature, the balance is the work. If anything gets out of control, stop before it gets out of control, ideally. And regardless, when it gets out of control, even if you haven't dropped, get the balance back under a comfortable amount of control. Get the balance back. Then stop, regroup, and start all over again. And lastly, just have patience. Just have patience.